What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So one of my audience members reached out to me here in the comment section of one of my videos and was telling me that, man, they wish they could actually attain 30 FPS on their PC build because they have, their hardware is much older, but they're looking forward to seeing if anybody can maybe answer that question, if there's anybody who's been able to test out hardware of that, level. And it's interesting to see because there are a lot of people who are snobbing the game because of 30 FPS on their consoles, whereas there are other people who are begging that they could play 30 well, one other person anyways, let me just not say other people, but one other person who's just, if they could even play the game at 30 FPS, they'd be happy. Now, here's the challenge. Overall, I think the game playing at higher frame rate is actually one that enhances your experience, and I'm going to explain over the course of this video. So having played Gotham Knights on console extensively, I've almost beaten the story now. I finally was able to get my hands on a PC version after release for PC, which took much longer. And I can tell you that the experience is already enhanced. Now, keep in mind that many might say, well, you see what we're saying? No, it does not really affect your experience on the 30 FPS side, because this was a big, huge combative spout back and forth among people here in the community. Some people saying, well, you PC players, you're just, and you console players, because some people will say, well, you're saying that 30 FPS isn't so bad, yet you're going to go play it on PC. I already did my own part and I played it on console so that I could actually see for myself. And my experience was not ruined by any FPS issues that I encountered. I played on the Series X, and so that's what I'm actually going by. And the game still maintains the fact that it's a lot of fun. So I guess that also really does stand out for the entire project. Because if you think about it, admittedly, some of the best superhero games that we all cite, even though they're not co-op open world like this Gotham Knights game, we all played them, or most of us played them at 30 FPS at first. In fact, some of you are just playing games like those at 60 FPS much more recently, and it never took away the fun of, from those games. So frame rates, that's an arbitrary argument right now as to the fidelity of the game. But I think also somebody could argue and say, well, my console should be able to play 60 FPS because this is the next gen. I get it. I guess maybe you can take the argument, but the engines they used to make your video games have not really evolved. So on the hardware side, we're evolving, but on the software side, I don't think we're evolving as much as I would actually think. I was shocked too when I saw God of War on a 4090, how it was behaving, because it behaves just like that on every other hardware that you run it on. And I was kind of shocked that the 4090 could not compensate for it. But I guess it also goes back to the framework of the software. There has to be a harmony that both of them work with. But anyways, what I've noticed though, and that's now very certain for me, is that Gotham Knights' biggest problem is actually its open world. When you get out on that bike, you will drop 20 or more frames in the open world on PC. Keep in mind that my build is a Ryzen 5950, the one I'm actually doing my tests on. And it's also running 6800 XT, 32 gigs of RAM. And still we're getting these issues. And the game is running on an NVMe. It's not the greatest NVMe, but it's a good NVMe. It's a Samsung. It's the second level of Samsung. So I'm doing my due diligence to make sure that I'm testing this game out with as good of a hardware as I can, get my hands on, and just to make sure, and we're still seeing this. But at the end of the day, though, even when you make your way into much more smaller corners, the game's experience stays more stable. The game gives you better frame rates. In fact, one of the biggest differences I noticed was, having played the game on console, mastered the combat to the best of my ability, I go out in the open world, and the very second group that I meet, I knock out 3 perfect evades in a row. Even Nightwing was mouthing off to them.
Just call me the Dodge Father.
I haven't done that in the console version because, the frame rate is also very important to be able to give you, and it help you achieve that level of precision when it's a game that's built around that system. And so saying that difference, I'm like, this is where the developers probably need to start looking very carefully as to how they can make their open world a better experience. So in this video, I want to go ahead and actually provide what I think might be a potential solution or a starting point. Maybe it's one the developers have considered, maybe it's not one they've considered. And that is the AI density, or at least the world density of Gotham Knights as it stands. Because indoors, you're going to see this game run you 80, 90, 100. I saw 100 FPS. I said, what game is this? It's running in indoor experiences, closed areas, little pockets. The game's running fine. Once you go out there, though, it's the jungle. So one thing I noticed was the number of enemy NPCs and the number of non-hostile NPCs is kind of weird. And I understand that this game wants to actually go ahead and leverage this thing of making its open world alive. But who gives a hoot about NPCs that you're not going to interact with anyways? Everyone just wants to go out there and beat up bad guys. And if we actually ask the question and say, which one do you want? More NPCs roaming the streets or more frames? Like 90% of people are going to say more frames. In fact, if anybody tries to say more NPCs, they're going to slap their hand and say, will you pick the right answer? Because that's right now the biggest problem that we're dealing with. And I'll give you the scenario right here in this video. I'm doing this mission in this small control point for these enemy NPCs. They're patrolling bad guys. And then randomly at a bench, there are two enemy NPCs just sitting, two non-hostile NPCs, sorry, I keep saying enemy NPCs, just sitting there. What are they doing here? The enemy density seems to me like it's off. And so even these two NPCs that were sitting here don't need to be there. And I'm sure they're probably, in a sense, because of the way they're placed, designed in the world, they're probably needing to be gone. Because sure, this ain't Spider-Man. This is not going to replicate New York. This is not Arkham Knight. Scarecrow has not chased everybody out of the city. But the developers, their trailer did say that people were being advised to stay home at night. So we shouldn't be seeing people randomly sitting there and reading Shakespeare while there's like another freak carrying a gun and patrolling around the place. That was very, very unique and questionable. And I've seen it and I'm like, no, this doesn't need to be any other game. It needs to be its own game. So first of all, the identity of Gotham Knights is going to have to take a stand. And I understand that this NPC thing cannot necessarily be removed overnight. Thank God for the people who went out there to teach AI design. Shout out to Asher Einhorn. Some of you don't even know who that is. AI designer. Worked at Naughty Dog. The first time I learned about AI was from a YouTube video that he made years ago. That's how I kind of started out, and I was able to start understanding and making my own AI in Unreal Engine 4. And I can tell you that with all of the materials, the splines, the code that this AI has to run, I can almost assure you that if they were to reduce the density or at least reduce the instancing of these non-hostile enemies, we might have a place that we're starting, a starting point. I'm not saying it's going to solve all of the optimization issues, but I'm saying that there might be a starting point to start getting the optimization of this game in place. So we're going to be looking at settings. We're going to be looking at different things that will enhance the experience. You know, what I've been able to do to achieve, you know, better frame rates. I'm going to just post my settings in the description below. I'm also going to try my hands on some other machines. If I can get my hands on some parts that I'm supposed to, you know, pick up on Facebook Marketplace, I want to kind of replicate, you know, much less powerful machines and see if we can run, you know, some tests. One of my audience members that told me that their rig is, you know, still limited. I want to see if I can replicate some things and see where they will max out, if they can even get 30 FPS on Gotham Knights. I have my first graphics card. It's an RX 480. Go look it up. It's like $60 right now. But I want to use that graphics card to kind of test out Gotham Knights and see where the limitations are. But anyways, let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. I know the game is fun right now. There's no doubt about that. I'm enjoying myself. I can't believe even on the console, I've enjoyed the entire experience so far. And I can't even wait to dive in on PC. Once I'm done beating it on console, I'm just going to take my time and just, you know, just drawing the experience, because I'm telling you, everyone fights somewhat differently. The animations play so smooth and so clean. This game was at the verge of being such a great game. I mean, just at the verge of being a great game, but it just fell short on that one marker. How sad, but how at the same time, you know, how much of a learning experience this is for everyone in general. So hopefully they can start these steps and they can make these changes and we can get the game to the fidelity that it needs to be. And then I think the game is going to be worth its salt as you're, you know, basically paying, or if you feel like you want to pay for the cost of the game at that point. And it brings me to the value proposition before I actually finish this video, because right now for $70 is your experience full on the console for Gotham Knights. The answer is no to me. And the reason I say that is because your experience is not as enhanced, because you're not playing it at the new, in quote, standard that everyone else should be playing it. Not saying that you shouldn't, you should dismiss the game overall. I'm just saying that the price point for the value proposition does not match. But to be honest, the difference is off by just a few dollars, maybe $15 or $20. So that's probably where I will put the game right now. Some people might say, oh, $50, well, $49.99. You keep the $9. I think, you know what I mean? It's not really a big difference. And that's based on US pricing as well, because I know some people are from other regions. So if you want to wait for a sale, you want to wait for a price point or whatever it is, that's probably going to be fair if that's how you want to go ahead and visualize it. And we'll be talking a little bit more about all of these, surrounding topics as time goes on. So thanks so much for watching the video. I really appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk in another video pretty soon. Peace out.